Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be a little bit different as I talk about my acne experience throughout my life and also my experience going through Accutane treatment. I would like to say that I am not a dermatologist, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a professional. I just wanted to share my experience on Accutane and hopefully give some tips and information about the medication for anyone who might be interested. So I've struggled with acne for as long as I can remember. I was probably in late middle school going into high school when I really started getting bad breakouts, and I remember it was just really hard to deal with and I would never go anywhere without makeup on. I hated how my skin looked. It was just getting really bad. I'd been through so many other treatments and used so many different medications, whether it be like topical creams, another pill. I can't remember exactly the pill I was on, medication that was supposed to be clear my acne, but nothing helped. Nothing really did the job for me. So I decided to go on Accutane in May of last year, so 2017. I started researching Accutane I think my senior year of high school, and I didn't actually go on the treatment until the end of my freshman year of college. I did go the whole first year still dealing with acne, and it was just getting really bad to the point where I knew I had to do something else about it because nothing else that I was using was working. But back to the beginning of my acne story, it was probably around 8th grade going into 9th grade. I had first started wearing makeup, and I was kind of young to start wearing makeup then, I feel like, and I kind of ruined my skin early on, which I really regret. I was just using kind of like cheap products, nothing really good for my skin, and I think that really took a toll on the way my skin turned out later in high school. I had first started getting like little whiteheads on my nose and just little breakouts around here, and I remember just kind of dealing with it and covering it up with more makeup, and that's probably the worst thing you could do. But for me, I feel like it got to the point where I couldn't not go out without covering it up, so that's just kind of how you get into that habit of wearing makeup all the time and you can't let your skin breathe because you're trying to cover up what it looked like underneath. So I totally understand that if you're in the same position, but Accutane really did make such a difference in my skin. And at first I was kind of skeptical because I'm like, how could just taking this pill for 6-7 months clear your acne completely? Like, I just wasn't buying it at first. But after I researched so many successful stories about it and looking at the results that other people had with going on the treatment, I knew it was the right step for me to take. So I did deal with acne throughout my entire time in high school because it started when I was around 8th and 9th grade. I just remember in 10th grade being like, oh my gosh, this is so bad, it was horrible, and I remember taking pictures. I'm going to see if I can find them. I'm going to insert them here, and now looking back, that was better than it had been like these most recent years. That was way better, and back then I thought it was horrible, and I feel like it just kind of kept getting progressively worse and worse without me completely realizing it. Like, I knew it was obviously bad, but I had felt at that point like there was nothing else I could do about it, and I was just like, this is my face, this is my skin, this is just how it's gonna be. I think the first time I went to the dermatologist, I was probably a sophomore in high school, and I remember them giving me, I think, like a topical treatment. I was on Retin-A. That is one that I remember I used, and it kind of just really irritated my skin. I remember it like burning a lot, and it didn't really get rid of anything, so it was kind of just not worth it to me because it was just irritating my skin in other ways that I didn't want to deal with. I think the most successful topical treatment that I did use was called Onextin. That actually did help clear my skin for quite a while. It was never anything permanent, but for the time being, it really did get the job done. After a while, I think my skin kind of just got like used to it, so it wasn't helping as much and not as well as I needed it to. So I kind of just remember putting off using things for a while, just giving my skin a break, still wearing makeup all the time because I was so insecure about just letting it breathe and having it open. So I would wear makeup every single day, which is horrible, but I'm so glad that now I'm at that point where I don't have to do that anymore. I never thought I would be able to step outside without makeup on, and now I do it all the time. So now I'm going to get into the actual experience of going through the treatment. So after I had tried so many topical treatments and other medications that just weren't working for me, I decided I wanted to go back to the dermatologist and see if they could prescribe me Accutane, since I did so much research on it and I knew it was something I wanted to learn more about at the doctor. I knew going into it that your dermatologist will probably not prescribe you Accutane unless you have taken other medications and tried something else, because it is a really harsh drug. That's why a lot of people are skeptical about going on it and wondering if it would be worth it with all the different side effects and how strong of a medication it is. I guarantee you it is worth it. In my case, at least, it's definitely up to your personal preference and if you think it would be worth it for you. I am going to go into some of the side effects later in this video, but first and foremost, I know they will not prescribe it to you unless you have tried other things in the past. So I started seeing a new dermatologist when I did start using Accutane, because the one I had used for the other topical treatments had moved to a different location kind of far away from me. So I started seeing this new doctor in the same office as my old doctor was in. They obviously had the records of all the different treatments I had already been on and knew it wasn't working for me. So I just remember going into the office the first day, and my mom was like kind of crazy about it. She didn't want me to go on such a harsh drug if it did have so many side effects, so she was really concerned, which I'm obviously grateful for. I'm glad she was looking out for me. But I remember when we both first went to my first appointment, the second the dermatologist saw me, he was like, she's definitely a candidate for Accutane. So that kind of like eased my mom's mind and knew that it was necessary for me to go on at that point after trying everything else and knowing it wasn't working. So everyone was kind of on the same page at that point, and it made it much easier to start the process. So while you're taking Accutane, you're required to be on birth control, and I had not been on birth control before taking Accutane. So I remember the first thing that we had to do, the first step, was to get a birth control prescription and be on the pill for at least a month, I think it was. So after I did that first month of being on birth control, not starting the Accutane yet, I went back to my dermatologist for my monthly visit. You do go every month, and before you go for your monthly visit, you're supposed to get blood work done. And I'm pretty sure I did it the first month because they have to see if you're even able to start the medication with the current state that your like blood work comes back the first time. So I'm pretty positive I did it the first time. I'm not sure. But definitely the months to come, you have to get blood work done right before your appointment every month. Besides that, I'm finishing my first month of birth control. You have to take a pregnancy test every month when you actually get to the dermatologist. And the reason for that is if you get pregnant while on Accutane, I'm pretty sure it's like, might be 100% guarantee that your child will have a birth defect. So they do everything in their power to prevent that, obviously. That's why it is a requirement to go on birth control and have a pregnancy test done every single month. Another thing you have to do is log on to this website called iPledge. I think that's what it was called. Sorry, it's been a few months, but I'm pretty sure it's called iPledge. And what you do is you go and you confirm your 2 types of birth control. They have to record that you're on 2 different types. And then you have to answer a few questions just about contraceptives and how to use them, what they can prevent, like just different random questions like that, because you're pledging to not get pregnant while on the medicine. So that is something you have to do every month as well. So after that first month and going back to the dermatologist to actually get my prescription, I think my blood work, for some reason, it was kind of noting that I couldn't be on a very high dosage. I think I started on 30 milligrams, 20 or 30. I think I switched a couple months. Like if my blood work was better one month, he would give me 30, and then if it like was kind of high, my levels in the blood work, he would bump me back down to 20. I was on Accutane for a total of 7 months. I started in May of 2017 and ended in December. I think the average is like 5 to 7 months. 6 months is normally the usual amount of time, I'm pretty sure. I was kind of frustrated at first knowing I was going to be on it that long, but it was necessary because I was on such a low dosage. We would have to prolong the months, and I think the initial time frame we were aiming for was 6 months, but then I remember by the end of it, he said he wanted to overshoot rather than undershoot. I was still having very few breakouts at the very end of my treatment, so he did want to make sure I was getting the full amount of medication that I needed, so we did overshoot an extra month, which honestly I'm glad we did, because by the end of December my skin was completely clear, and I will have pictures I'm inserting throughout the months. I took a picture every single month to see my progress, and looking back you can really see the difference that Accutane made in my skin and how much it really improved throughout the course of taking the treatment. But first I'm going to show a couple pictures of what my skin looks like before going on Accutane, kind of the recent photos right before starting the treatment and when it was getting really bad where I knew that I wanted to do something about it. You can kind of just see even through like my makeup, I had so many outward breakouts and just really bumpy skin, and it was really hard to cover up even with makeup. So underneath makeup I had all of those blemishes obviously, and a lot of scarring from previous breakouts I'd had throughout the years that I've been struggling with acne. So it was really difficult to have to try and cover that up every day and feel like you can't go out without any makeup. This was the first day that I started Accutane without makeup on. Obviously you can see I have a lot of blemishes still present on my skin, as well as the scarring underneath, just really red and irritated, and that kind of stayed that way for a few months. And this next one was the month of June. I remember in the first month or so, a lot of the present blemishes did kind of disappear very quickly. The scarring is kind of what took a while in preventing new breakouts from happening, but the ones that I did have when starting did disappear fairly quickly. This picture is around August, I think. A lot of the blemishes again were still going down. I did still have a lot of redness and scarring. I never really had like indents in my skin from my acne, which I was really grateful for because I know those are a lot harder to get rid of in the long run. I just had a lot of kind of like splotchy discoloration on my skin, which did eventually fade a lot over time after I did complete the Accutane. In September, I remember seeing a lot of progress as it was a little over the halfway point. At that point, a lot of the redness had gone down and it wasn't as much scarring underneath, which was awesome because that was a lot of what I was struggling with at that point. And by October, I remember feeling so happy with my skin. It was so smooth, so soft. A lot of the scarring had faded at the point, and I was not getting any new breakouts at all. So that's a lot of the reason the scarring will stay and not fade as quickly if you are getting new breakouts. So that is the first thing you want to prevent, is getting those new pimples showing up, and then once that happens, that's when the scarring will fade. So October and November were great. I remember barely having any breakouts. It was amazing. I was like, oh my gosh, this worked. And of course, every month I kept going back, doing my blood work, checking with my doctor. He would evaluate my skin, up my dosage, down my dosage, but I didn't have any change of side effects because of those dosage differences, which I will still get into later. But by the end of November, my skin looked great. At that point, I felt fully comfortable taking pictures with no makeup on to show my skin, going out showing my skin, not having to have makeup on all the time. It was the best feeling in the entire world. So those were some of the progress pictures that I took throughout my time on Accutane. Now I'm going to be talking about the different side effects that I experienced and different products I used to help those side effects. The main side effect that comes with being on Accutane is very dry skin, lips, hair, everything just dries out. And that's actually how the medication works. It's pretty much drying out your skin from the inside out, and that's why it helps prevent breakouts, because it's stripping your body of those oils and dirt and grime and things that are underneath your skin that you might not be able to prevent. I actually did not have dry skin throughout my time on Accutane. It might be because I was on such a low dosage. So in that aspect of it, I do recommend being on a lower dosage for a longer period of time, which at first I was actually wanting to do the opposite. I wanted to be on like 80 milligrams as fast as I could and just get it over with, but I promise if you're just patient and you do the dosage that's right for you by your doctor for the designated amount of time, it will still be worth it in the end and you'll still get great results. So it was kind of nice being on a low dosage because I didn't experience super harsh side effects as many other people do. I did, however, have very, very dry lips. I remember that was just unavoidable for me. Yeah, my skin didn't get so dry, but my lips were crusty. They were not cute for a long time. That was really hard to deal with at the same time, but I knew it was definitely going to pay off in the end. I remember even just like the first couple weeks, definitely by the first month, my lips were so bad, especially like on the corners. I just remember it being so like flaky, and even like my skin around here. I know it's kind of gross, but it was just so hard to do. I could barely open my mouth. When I would talk, I would have to like keep my lips really close together because I couldn't really open my mouth. That's definitely a side effect that a lot of people will go through when they are on Accutane. So the best thing I used to deal with my nasty, crusty lips was Aquaphor. This saved my life, honestly. I tried so many chapsticks and regular lip balms and stuff, and this was definitely the best one that I used. This one actually has the sunscreen in it, which I didn't really like. I bought it on accident, so that's why I still have it, because I remember I ran out. I went through probably like 3 or 4 tubes, but it was so worth it because it's just the most moisturizing. It comes out kind of like this, like it has one of these little openings and you just squeeze it out, so it's like really thick and helps hydrate your lips. So Aquaphor was definitely the best thing that I used for my lips, and my dermatologist I think recommended it anyways, so I'm sure your doctor will let you know the best products you can use to deal with that sort of thing. I was never one to really wear like lip balm or chapstick. I actually hated the feeling of having lip balm on my lips because I was never really dry. I was always felt pretty moisturized. But now that I'm off my Accutane and I obviously don't need it anymore, it goes away right away. That's not something you deal with afterwards. Once I stopped the treatment, my lips were completely fine. And actually even towards the end of my treatment, they were already kind of going down. It was really just the first couple months I feel like I was dealing with the dry lips. But that being said, now I can't go without having chapstick on my lips. Obviously I don't need something that strong, so right now I'm using like the Burt's Bees, just like regular little chapstick. But I do this every night before bed, like all during the day, in the morning, and I never used to have chapstick. I hated the feeling of it, but that kind of got me like addicted to using it when I was on Accutane because it just helped me so much. And while I was taking the treatment, I remember I would definitely do it at night before bed, put on the Aquaphor, and also in the mornings, and then obviously just throughout the day whenever you need to. But I remember at night was the best time to do it because if not, you wake up and I feel like my mouth was literally like sealed shut from how like gross it was. That was really bad for me to deal with. But other than that, I didn't have dry skin, like my actual face or body. And I remember when I started my treatment, I actually went and bought one of these huge bottles of Cetaphil, the moisturizing lotion for body and face. So I bought this because I figured, oh, I'm gonna need like a moisturizer, because I never actually moisturized my skin, which is bad, and probably is part of the reason why I had such bad acne. I never used a moisturizer. I never had dry skin, so I didn't see the need to moisturize, but that's the issue, is when you don't moisturize your skin, even if you are oily, it's going to produce more oil on its own because you're not doing it with a cleaner moisturizer. So I highly recommend moisturizing your skin even if you are naturally oily, because I definitely made that mistake. But for some reason my skin did not dry out when I was on the medicine, so I didn't have to actually use that bottle of Cetaphil. However, afterwards I've definitely been having a more in-depth skincare routine where I do moisturize every single day, so I definitely implemented that into my routine after I was off the medicine. One of the good things about everything kind of drying out on your body is that my hair was not oily at all. And my hair actually gets really greasy like really fast, so I for the longest time washed my hair every single day, which I know is so bad, and forever I wanted to get out of that habit and not wash my hair as much. You know, it's kind of hard to get into that. Once you start doing it less frequently, you have to deal with the days where it's all gross and nasty. So I hated that, and I never really started getting into that habit. But when I was on Accutane, it kind of just dried the oil glands in my hair, and my hair definitely did not get greasy at all. Obviously after like 4 or 5 days it would, but I would never really go that long. But it was a perfect opportunity for me to get into not washing my hair as often because I didn't have to deal with the nasty greasy days in between, which was great. One of the main side effects that a lot of people are worried about going on Accutane or kind of hesitant to is because it is supposed to be very, I don't really know how to describe it really, but if you have tendencies of being depressed or anxious and all those different kinds of things, it can kind of trigger those emotions. It kind of takes like an emotional toll on you. So it's definitely something to consider if you are thinking about going on Accutane, if you have those tendencies, to kind of make sure you're on a low enough dosage and you're regulated by your doctor. I know every time I went to my dermatologist for my monthly checkup, he would have to ask a list of questions just about my mental state and how I was feeling. So it was really nice to know how strictly they regulate it and how many times they have to ask the same questions over and over to make sure you're happy and healthy and the medicine is working for you. But thankfully I didn't have to endure any of those side effects, so throughout my time on Accutane I never had any really change of mood. I think that's because, again, I was on a low dosage, so that might be something to consider if you are wanting to take the medicine but you have those tendencies. You can definitely take a lower dosage, and I know the side effects shouldn't be as strong. Another big factor going into being on Accutane is that you are more susceptible to sunburns, I think, or your skin is really sensitive, and I kind of made the mistake of starting Accutane right before the summer, so I had to be really cautious when I went to the beach. I had to make sure I was wearing the right SPF and reapplying. I was kind of nervous thinking that the second I went out in the sun or went to the beach I would burn automatically or I would not be able to go and have fun, but that also didn't affect me that much either. One more side effect that I kind of heard a lot about when I was researching Accutane was that you would have a lot of muscle soreness or weakness in your body. That was also another thing I didn't really experience. I know it's obviously different for everyone, so don't completely expect that you won't have any side effects if you do go on the treatment. It just happened to be in my case that I didn't. The only really thing for me was the dry lips. Overall, it was a really great experience for me, and I didn't have many of the harsh side effects that do come with it. However, that is something that you should take into consideration if you are trying to go on the medicine, because it's definitely very prevalent and a lot of people do experience those things. And here are actually some video clips of my skin currently. I took these clips before I did my makeup today for this video, but I rarely have any breakouts. I think I've probably had a total of maybe 2 or 3 pimples at most since I've been off of it, and that was December and it is now July. So over the course of 7 months I have not had any problems with my skin, which is crazy because I feel like every day I woke up before I took Accutane I was having a new pimple, I was having a new breakout somewhere, like nothing was going away, nothing was fading, and now it's like I don't even know how I lived life that way now that I know how good it is to have clear skin and finally be able to feel my face and know that there's no bumps on it and not wear makeup. It's just really the best feeling ever, and I'm so glad that I went through Accutane. So as you can see, I personally had a great experience being on Accutane, and I highly recommend it if you are considering it, to at least go to your dermatologist and get some more information on it and see if you're qualified to start taking the medicine. It definitely changed my life, and I know that sounds so like cliche, but I feel like I live a totally different life now, and I'm so grateful to finally have clear skin. I've heard of people having to do a second round of Accutane. That hasn't been my case yet. I have still seen great results. My acne hasn't come back at all. I haven't had to deal with any breakouts since I stopped the treatment, so I'm hoping that stays that way and I won't have to do another treatment. But I can say that Accutane completely cleared my skin, and I have loved the results that it gave me. I hope this video is helpful for you if you are considering going on Accutane. And if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe and check out the rest of my videos. If you have any other questions about Accutane, please leave them down below and I will try to answer them to the best of my ability. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in my next video.